News with Gina.
The News with Gina Grad.
Well, there is so much discussion about voting and how you're voting and if you're going to go stand in line and if your company offers paid time off to do it and if you're a ballot guy, if you're a ballot box guy or a mail-in gal or whatever. But thank God for Los Angeles. And I would imagine that this is possibly happening in other states, but we certainly don't expect it in ours. Enter the Compton Cowboys. I don't know if you saw this on the news recently, but they made a spectacle on Sunday.
The worst USFL team ever.
Yeah. And we have a picture dropping off their mail-in ballots all on horseback. This is a group known as the Compton Cowboys. They're 10 friends who hail from L.A. They aim to uplift inner city communities through horseback riding while highlighting the rich legacy of African Americans in equine and Western heritage, according to the website. They say everybody lights up when they see the Compton Cowboys riding through town. You get that special thing about a horse. It's no matter who you are. You could be a kid. You could be an older person. You could be a gangster. You could be a white collar person. Whatever you're doing, you're going to see a horse. You're going to light up. So they are making the most of dropping off their ballots going through the inner city.
Yeah, horses. I really do believe that it sounds kind of corny, but a lot of these like inner city kids and situations, if they could get out and get into nature a little bit, ride a horse, pet a horse, take a hike, like just getting with nature. We are not, I don't believe our systems are wired to live around too much concrete and asphalt. Like we can do it for a period of time, but it can't be your life. You have to put your feet in the ocean. You have to pet a horse's nose. You have to smell a pine cone or something. There's no doubt that all the people who do the most of that are the most balanced, like chemically balanced, like settled or something.
Well, you brought up the Nuge earlier, the Motor City Madman. He has a camp to teach kids how to hunt.
Yeah, I know. Dawson was a counselor there until this whole COVID thing kicked in. So, in terms of like all that shit all the time where it's like, we got to build a nighttime basketball court and stuff like that, or a boxing gym or something, that's okay. But you got to get out of that environment. If you guys, when I was out in South Philly a few years ago and I was just kind of walking around my dad's old stomping grounds in South Philly, I started to feel sick just walking around that place. Like just nothing but filth and graffiti. Cement. And it's just like, ugh. You know what I mean?
That's why they have the Fresh Air Fund. I think that's out of New York. And the whole point of that is exactly what you're saying, to get inner city kids, hosted by families either in upstate or, in the tri-state area, to just get them into nature, to just go see some trees for the summer. Yeah. And that's what that whole foundation is based on. I only lived in New York for 2 years, a little over 2 years. And there were days, because it was such a day in and day out sort of shock to me, that I was so claustrophobic, I was getting anxious. And I would go to Central Park and I would only go to the part of the park where if you laid a certain way and you sat a certain way, you couldn't see fucking skyscrapers when you looked up.
Really?
Because it was just, everything just felt like it was closing in on you.
There was an imprint of Gina on the ground.
I know. Literally. I mean, it was tough because I lived in Queens, I lived in Harlem, I lived in the East Village, and not coming from that environment, it really does, the walls do close in on you.
Yeah, so good for the Compton Cowboys.
That's right. So we've heard of debunking information. Well, Twitter is now going to pre-bunk. They said last week it would begin placing messages at the top of users' feeds to preemptively debunk false information about voting by mail and election results. That's an escalating sort of tech battle that they've been dealing with misinformation, they say. Twitter is calling the message a pre-bunk because the debunking is not a reaction to anything existing yet. One of the messages scheduled to go live is, and I'm quoting, "Election experts confirm that voting by mail is safe and secure, even with an increase in mail-in ballots."
I just sort of took off with all this mail-in. Is all the mail-in the reason is COVID? I mean, is that the I mean, I know people mail in anyway or absentee, but is the drive behind the mail in this election cycle, is that all COVID based?
Yes, I think so. You mean the drive for people to do it, not for people to discredit it?
Yeah, to do it. Yeah,
I think so.
I think that's the accelerant. I mean, they want, obviously, it behooves everyone to expand access to voting, but the reason, the accelerant, so to speak, is like COVID. Don't stand in line. Don't go to these crowded places. Go ahead and mail in your ballot.
Well, and what crowded places?
Isn't it like we all can go to Trader Joe's though? Doesn't it feel like? Does it feel that different?
They talked about that in one of the articles and said it's because grocery stores and things like that are very properly ventilated and spaced out. And so that's different than, Newsom not wanting you to sit with your neighbors in your little living room.
Voting centers are mostly in high school gyms, though, right?
Well, that's right.
Fire stations.
But also think about talk about capacity issues, but it's also capacity issues. If you have 50 ballot booths and now you're only allowed to use 10 of them, people are going to be standing in line for 2 days.
Okay.
I would imagine.
It seems weird. It's bizarre to me because I've just been going about my life. Like I went to the Home Depot the other day, and there was a line to get into the Home Depot. Mm-hmm. So it was full to whatever their capacity is, and I've been in there, and there's plenty of people in that place. Yeah. And then there's the market, and then there's the fucking corner store. Like this feels weird that it's so driven by COVID, but all right, everyone's a fucking pussy. Fine. I get it. All right.
Well, and then I think the argument against, there being any conspiracy behind mailing stuff. I don't remember who's in charge of it. Louis, the guy who's in charge of the Postal Service. But he said, Louis DeJoy.
Louis something.
Louis something.
I think it was him who said, do you know that we get, whatever it is, 3 billion Christmas cards to where they're supposed to go on time. We don't have 3 billion mail-in ballots to deal with. But then there's been funding cut issues. And, so maybe Twitter will save us all with debunking and pre-bunking the problem. But, mail it in, go stand in line, do what you got to do. So far, there's only been, I think, 1, perhaps 2 ballot boxes that have been set on fire. So far we're doing all right.
We're doing good.
Yeah.
Wendy Williams. Haven't talked about her in a while. Things were going all right.
What?
Yeah.
First off, how necessary is Wendy Williams?
Oh, we're about to find out.
To our audience, probably.
I just feel like I'm not sure what she does. I know she dishes, the hot stuff.
The hot
she
gas.
She tells it like it is.
She tells it like it is.
And she keeps it real.
But doesn't she
straight talk?
Doesn't she keep herself in the news by having a nervous breakdown every 19 months?
You're 100% right. I think there's a skill to people who just keep themselves, I guess, relevant or in the news or whatever, whatever label I slap on it. That's a skill unto itself. Like, I don't know how talented Wendy Williams is, but we all know her and she's in the news quite frequently. So,
but having public meltdowns, I feel like that's her skill. I don't know. I don't even know what she's into now, but she seems to have very public breakdowns.
Yeah. I don't know if this one was premeditated, but in a certain way. But we'll find out together. Viewers of the Wendy Williams show last Friday were concerned about her well-being. She acted sort of erratic on her Hot Topics segment. Her words were disjointed. Sometimes she wasn't finishing sentences. She was mispronouncing stuff. Backstage, there were whispers about her sobriety, which she's been very sort of open about, candid. Nearly 2 years ago, she entered a rehab around the time of her divorce. Yet a former employee said most of Wendy's staff is still afraid to confront her. There's a little bit extra, but this was a 13-minute clip that I chopped down to less than a minute. So here's just a smattering of what the show looked like last week.
Well, a guy like Rick Ross, since he's rich forever,
oh no,
to me, he's got a lot of mansions.
The staff is trying to keep the ball in the air.
Okay. The mansion that he owns right there, we've already talked about this. 109 rooms.
109.
Joe Biden's like, I don't see the problem.
Yeah, I'd vote for her.
What's
Normal.
wrong with it?
Richard Roundtree, and what was Richard Roundtree then? You get to meet apart. So when I get it, they said somebody about named Richard Roundtree doing chef. What?
Is that Isaac Hayes?
No, that was fucking Mike Pence.
No, I have too many. I got too many black people in my head now.
It was Isaac Hayes.
Yeah, it was one of my best interviews.
Wow.
Sorry. Yeah.
You didn't have to do much.
Would you have you seen enough, or would you like to
I'll
see
see a little
the rest
more.
of the clip? Here we go.
12 bathrooms. We already talked about the bathrooms. Okay. 12 bedrooms.
Something's going on with her. All right, here, I've seen enough.
And a nice
Whatever it is, let's handle it discreetly. Let's be discreet about it.
How do we? Well, my question to you is going to be, how do you do that when she's going live no matter what? But I actually have the answer to that. And if another taping goes like that, the producers said they have an evergreen ready to run if she's having some sort of issue, because they did not have anything to run, and that's what ended up airing. And it's not funny, obviously, when someone's struggling with something. The thing that gave me some chuckles was that, the only people that seem to be allowed in the studio audience are the crew, and who knows what they're used to, and who knows how they were on point. They're clapping, they're laughing, they're trying to keep this ball in the air. And to be able to do that at the ready makes me think they've seen this multiple times, because there was no anyone looking at each other and shrugging.
What's going on?
On it.
Well, also, by the way, keeping her audience at home is cruel, because they are all fucking at home, waiting for the Meals on Wheels van to come by. That audience, her audience, that daytime audience, they ain't jet skiing on the Riviera, and they ain't jogging in the park, and they ain't working on an app. They are home. That group is home.
Bound.
I've been in that. I've done that show. That audience is. They tape. I think they taped at 10:30. Weekdays at 10:30. If you're going to a Wendy Williams live taping, you are fucking unemployable, because it's not like you have a nighttime job. You're fucking there. Then she made fun of me for my shirt.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of things.
All right, let's do one more, Gina Grand.
All right. Well, I think you have more in common with Matthew McConaughey than you may have been led to believe, Adam. He was opening up about raising his kids on and promoting his book Green Lights. He was doing that with Dak Shepard on his podcast, and they discussed the similarities in their upbringings as children of divorce. They did not have wealthy parents, households with physical violence. This led Shepard to ask McConaughey about the way he raises his three kids, 12 years old, 10, and 7. And McConaughey said that while he doesn't want to give the kids everything, he also doesn't want them to downplay or be embarrassed about what they do have, because he's worked hard for it. He says, quote, "We want our children to own the affluence we have. Don't do any false modesty like, no, my mom and dad aren't. Yes, we are. Keep your chin high. When someone says, I bet you live in a big house, don't get shy. Don't feel guilty about that. We own it."
Yeah. Well,
as opposed to, I'm sorry, Rick Dees that claims he's never flown first class or won't talk about it when he's doing the radio show.
Oh God, that's such an old school radio thing.
You know how many D's grease it gets in coach? Man, it gets hot back there. Man, and they ain't serving up the Heine wine anymore, I'll tell you that. I just dug out 2 Rick Dees bits from the 80s.
Wow. That was great.
You go disco duck.
About the time it took him to develop them.
Heine wine. I still don't really get Heine wine.
I have no idea what that is.
He doesn't either.
If you type in Rick Dees and Heine wine, will we hear a Heine wine bit? And again, I don't.
Is that anti-Semitic?
No, not Jaime.
Heine wine. I like I've said, when you are confusing, that is the worst thing you can say about a comedic premise or a joke. You can say it's not that funny or not funny at all. But if you just go, I don't know what they're trying to do, that is your worst day as a creator, right? When people don't know what you're doing. I never figured out the Heine Wine bit.
So the Heine Wine was actually the brainchild of a radio DJ, Terry Dorsey, who in 81 was a morning guy in Dallas, and he made these hits, and they proved to be such a hit and fooled enough listeners that Dorsey and the general manager of the station sold the scripts to radio stations around the country, including Rick.
Oh, it wasn't even his horrible idea?
Oh,
yeah.
It was a prep service.
Do you have a recording of a Heine Wine?
Let me see if I can find something.
So, yes, it's pretty, first things first. We have, as a society, we completely jumped the shark. When I was a kid, people were pretending to be affluent. That was all the sitcom stuff is, don't let them know. Your Dolly Parton, blazer of many comforters. Whatever the shit that was. An age quilt made from heaven.
Sure.
What the whole thing was about, you're going to make your own prom dress out of a curtain, Pretty in Pink and all that shit. Everyone was trying to sort of elevate or up their game. Now everyone is downgrading, and they're both bullshit. They're kind of equally bullshit. As a matter of fact, trying to pretend like you're more affluent, I kind of understand it. It's aspirational, and you're trying to get somewhere. Now no one wants to be judged, so they're rounding it down. Everyone just start owning it and go, yeah, I work really hard. My kids got a lot of shit too, but I explain to them all the time that's because I work really hard, not because anything you guys did. And good for him. Heine Wine bit, Max Zapata?
I found one that it's not Rick Dees reading it, but
Chris, I'll buy you some time. Pulling all these stories together, Rick Dees' son, obviously he's very wealthy.
Kevin.
Rick Dees, is that who it is? Mm-hmm. I only knew him as Rick Dees' son because he was at USC at the same time as me. He was in a competing fraternity, Pike. Ugh. Yeah. And he was. They had an unsanctioned rush event on what I was told was Rick Dees' boat. Like they took a bunch of freshmen out there, got them drunk or whatever, and they got caught and they got fucked. They had to they couldn't have pledges for like a year. It was pretty bad.
That is
it was so delightful.
That is a white privilege story to button all our white privilege talk. All right, is there a Heine Wine bit?
Yeah, this one's not Rick Dees. This is
That doesn't matter.
Okay,
we'll play it.
Here we go.
The Beatles' Lady Madonna and the Hollies bus stop wet day. Well, you know the rest of the story. It's 7:11, 11 minutes after 7 o'clock at Wacky Radio with Moody in the morning, and it's Monday, August 6th. This begins National Smile Week, and you're asked to share a smile with others and pass along a gift that costs you absolutely nothing. Big Red and Thor Heine, the owners and operators of the Heine Winery in beautiful downtown Waddy, Kentucky, Little L.A., two guys who are responsible for making Heine Wine, the wine in the flip-top can, are giving all the Heine lovers across Kentuckiana a big smile this week with the help of their Heinies. That's right, when you pick up a six-pack of Heine Wine this week only, you'll notice something different about your can. Each can of Heine Wine has a little smiley face painted right on it. In honor of National Smile Week, Big Red and Thor have painted faces on all their Heinies. As Big Red said, it only seems appropriate since more often than not, I'm told if anything can make you smile, it's got to be a little Heine. So, when you meander into your favorite carry-out this week, ask the person behind the counter if he or she has a Heine with a smiley face painted on it. Take part in National Smile Week, and the best way to do that is by putting a smile on your face and letting Big Red and Thor put a smile on your Heine. Heine Wine, the wine never once mentioned at the 1984 Summer Olympics, the wine that made Waddy Paytona. 12 minutes after 7.
That bit is so... That bit is so bad that if you were listening to it while looking for an address while you're driving, you just have no. It's all predicated on your butt being called your Heine.
Yeah,
and then the can, nice throw.
And the can. Oh, geez, it's fucking.
It took me a full 45 seconds to realize the joke was about butts. Or that there was the joke, quote unquote.
All right, simpler times. Should we take it home, Gina Grad?
That's what we will do. I'm Gina Grad, and that's the news.
That was the news with Gina Grad.